So, how do you improve or transform your marriage if your spouse does not want counseling? I've never shared this on YouTube before, but one of the biggest reasons why I do what I do is because of my own personal experience in my marriage in transforming it from the inside out without my husband's participation or without counseling. Now, it wasn't easy at all, but we went from a relationship that was full of constant conflict. We were literally on the edge of divorce more than once. We were separated twice, actually, to now where we're grateful every single day. Like, we're joyful about where we are. We're friends. We're soulmates. We're excited to come home to each other. And most importantly, we're really excited about our future. When I look back on where we were and then compare it to where we are now, it still sometimes feels like a miracle to me. But I want to share with you how I did it because I truly believe that if I can do it, you can do it too. There are 3 core areas that I focused on, and I'm going to share them with you in detail. All right. So before I get into the 3 things that I focused on to transform my marriage without counseling, I want to emphasize I really did this on my own. I started on my own. I didn't even tell my husband what I was doing. And he would give me credit, to be fair, now looking back, because he did not want counseling. I kept giving him books I wanted him to read. I would try to talk to him about certain concepts. I gave him podcasts and articles and things like that. But the truth is I did not have a lot of credibility because I wasn't holding up my end either. And I'm a therapist, right? So it was very humbling to me to feel like I knew these things intellectually, but I just wasn't able to integrate that into having a really great marriage. So I tried for a long time to get him to think about it the way that I wanted to think about it, to talk about it the way that I wanted to talk about it, and to try to pull him over to my side. And finally, I just got to the point where, to be honest with you, I believed I was going to leave the marriage. I believed that I wasn't going to be able to turn it around, and that was it. But we had young kids at the time, and I remember thinking I wanted to give it a year. And I knew I had a lot to clean up on my side of the street, and I wanted to be able to look my kids in the eye and be honest when I say I really did all that I could. I wanted to have a clear conscience before I left, which was what I really honestly thought was going to happen. So when I started this work, I actually just did it for me, and it wasn't something that I believed would yield where we are right now. But at the time, that was enough for me to get started. So I was like, okay, I'm going to give it a year. I'm going to focus on the things that I can do. And then in a year, when nothing's changed, I'll be able to look them in the eye and say, look, I cleaned up my side and nothing's changed on your side. And so now I can walk away. But what happened was he ended up getting really inspired by the work that I did, and he wanted to level up too after a few months of the work that I did. So the very first thing that I did is I started to really commit to this idea that I could only focus on what I could control, and I was going to leave everything else to the side. I was going to say the Serenity Prayer every single day. If you don't know what that is, make sure you look it up. It's basically the idea that you are going to bring your energy into the areas that you have impact on. Your mental energy, your physical energy, all of your emotional bandwidth is going to be focused into the things that you can control, and every single thing else is going to be let go of. Now, this was really hard for me because I spent a lot of time trying to get my husband to see things a certain way, trying to get him to do things a certain way. I was very focused on what was over there on his side of the street, so I didn't even know what it would look like to surrender the things that I can't control. What does that even look like? But I had to ask that question every single day. When I asked myself the question, what can I let go of, or what can I actually control? What I realized is that there were certain things that I could take back onto my plate that I was leaving on his side. So, for example, I'm really sensitive to my environment. My threshold is a lot lower than my husband's in terms of clutter. And it was my need for it to be a certain way, not his. Now, there's a caveat here, which is our house was never a total pigsty, so that helped. But when it came to the children's stuff and the lion's share of the household stuff, school stuff, everything like that, it fell on me. So I had to get to a point where I was like, what is most important to me? What are the big rocks? What do I have to have done for me to feel okay, and where I can be in an environment where I'm happy and I can thrive, and I have to take ownership over that, even if that's not quote unquote fair, right? And I had to do it without feeling resentful. But what that forced me to do was to recognize which things I must have and which things I really didn't need. Like, what's a nice to have versus what's a deal breaker. And a lot of things that I felt like were deal breakers really weren't. And a lot of things that were nice to haves became so laden with meaning and became such an area of focus for me because of the narrative that I was living inside of. So I had to let go of what I thought was fair or not and just decide that it's not unfair if I'm showing up in a way that takes care of myself, if I'm holding my boundaries, and if I'm serving what my ultimate life dreams are, then I really never have anything to lose. If he does what I ask him to do, great. If he doesn't do it, oh well, right? It's on my plate anyway, and I take ownership. Honestly, that was the hardest thing I had ever done at the time because, like I said, I didn't even know what that looked like. And my biggest fear was that I was going to be compromising myself, or that I was going to be a doormat, or that I was just going to have to accept things that were unacceptable. But what I found instead was that I had so much more power on my side of the street than I thought that I did. And with this inner game that I practice every day, I ended up feeling amazing, and it was not that hard after a while. The second thing I did was I held my boundaries around repair. And what I mean was, if there was something that happened that hurt my feelings, like if my husband responded in a way that was passive aggressive, or let's say he was really harsh to me and he broke our connection in some way, I would come to him with that, with a really healthy attempt at repair. I'd let him know what happened, what the trigger was, the meaning that I gave it, and what it was that I needed to feel better. And then if he didn't give that to me, we simply weren't repaired. So instead of banging my head on that wall, I would just say, okay, I can accept that this is what you're not able to give me. And now we're not repaired. And I would either say that out loud, or I'd say that to myself. So I would then just stay in my lane, and I would forego my own attachment needs. And I would stay really congruent with the fact that we weren't repaired. That means I wasn't going to pretend like we were repaired and just carry on. And I wasn't going to be initiating affection or quality time together. I wasn't going to be as though we were as close as we were before there was a breach. Now, that didn't mean that I was going to act out or retaliate or make him pay for it by being unfriendly or passive aggressive back. I was still going to be respectful. I was still going to be kind, but I was just going to keep a little bit of distance and just be true to the fact that, like, we're not on good terms. I'm not mad at you, and I'm not going to come after you, but I didn't feel like I got the repair that I needed. And so now there's a little bit of a disconnect. The trick was that I had to go for days without having my own attachment needs met. Like, I wasn't going to be as close as I wanted to be. And that was the hardest part. But what happened was, and he started to get in touch with his own attachment needs because I removed the power struggle. There was no charge between us anymore. So instead of feeling like he had to repair to get out of trouble with me, he wanted to repair because he wanted to feel connected. He wanted to have fun. He wanted to be close to me. He wanted there to be peace. He wanted to go back to good feelings that we had before there was a breach in connection. So when I was able to stand strong with knowing I'm going to be okay if we're not super connected right now, or if we're not super close at this moment, I can go a few days without that. And I can give him time and space to figure out a way how he's going to repair this. And I didn't do the work for him. I didn't do all of the emotional heavy lifting for him. He was able to then start to do it more. And this grew over time. Now, the hard part was there was a strong pull in me to want to go like fight for the repair or get mad at him for not repairing it or not doing it right. Like, because I wanted to be reconnected now, right? I wanted to be reconnected, and it was hard for me to not go after him. But what I had to do was remember, this is about me not feeding a dynamic that I don't want. This is about me not putting my energy towards something that I don't want to be a part of. And if I'm resentful because I'm doing all the emotional heavy lifting to repair, then I have to stop doing that. And ultimately, what ended up happening was I made peace with the fact that I was making a short-term sacrifice for a long-term gain in setting up a foundation for a healthy marriage for life. And then the third thing that I did was that I had to really manage my own energy. I had to clean up my side of the street in terms of what triggered me and my emotional regulation. So that required daily mindset work. I had to change my limiting beliefs at the subconscious level. That was not easy to do. I had to work on that every single day. I had to meditate, and I had to carve out that time to sit with myself every single day, to tune into my emotions, to metabolize my emotions and let them pass through me so that I could come to him with a softer vibe. I could use soft startup. I could be more vulnerable. I could ask him for something that I really wanted without that super intense energy behind it, and give him the choice to say no. I allowed him the space to be a grown man and decide how he wanted to show up. I allowed him to disappoint me if that's what he chose to do. And I wouldn't fight with him about that stuff. I would just let him decide how he was going to show up. And what I found was that if I didn't retaliate, but I just was congruent with my boundaries, like I mentioned, if I continued to rock the boat in a loving way, and I gave him the freedom to respond in the way that he wanted to, and I let him disappoint me a few times without any payback or without any fights or drama, then he started to think about how he wanted to be. He started to think to himself, I don't want to be the guy that doesn't care about my wife's feelings. I don't want to be the husband that says no every time she comes to me with a request. How do I want to model being a husband in front of my own children, right? But he was able to come to that on his own because I stayed in my own lane. I allowed him to feel the outcome of his own choices. That made him want to rise up and meet me where I was, and he wanted to join me in the work. He wanted to become a better spouse because he had seen me become a better spouse. He could feel that I wasn't trying to control him anymore, and I wasn't trying to control the narrative or dictate the terms of the work that we were doing. I was just controlling what I could control, and I was holding my boundaries, taking care of myself, and showing up as my best self. And I think that that really makes our spouse want to show up in a way, even if they don't want counseling, if they really want to be with you. Once you clean up your dysfunction from your side of the street, it makes them see their own more clearly, and it makes them want to level up too, right? As I was growing in strength and as I was growing in grace, he also could feel like if I don't grow, I probably won't be able to be with her, and I want to be with her. The same is true for you if you're with somebody that really loves you and you're not dealing with a precondition, which is an acute untreated mental health condition or an acute untreated addiction or an abusive relationship or a relationship with a narcissist, okay? If you're not dealing with those 4 things, you absolutely can take the same approach. And trust me when I say this, because I was very toxic. Like I lost my crap regularly. And I was somebody that behaved in ways that I am ashamed to admit to this day, right? And my husband would feel the same way. He would tell you the same thing. So if we can do it, you can do it. But I had to go first. And sometimes the person that really wants to make it work, or the person who's leaning out and is like, this might not work, but I know that I still have a dirty side of the street, you just have to start first. You have nothing to lose. If you're showing up in a way that's in alignment with your life dreams, your values, and what it is that you want to model for your family and your legacy, then you never have anything to lose by just going first, focusing on yourself and, what you can control, holding really healthy boundaries, and holding yourself to account no matter how your spouse shows up. And one of 2 things are going to happen. They're either going to rise up to meet you there, or you're going to grow beyond it and you'll have such clarity and you'll be able to walk away with your head held high. Nothing bad can come of it. Movement one way or the other is really helpful, especially if you're in a marriage where you're really stuck and you've been in the same dynamics for 20 or more years. Sometimes trying to get them to see the need to work on the marriage with you is a waste of energy, and you want to just decide for yourself, what are you going to do, and start there. So that's it for today, you guys. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments below. And if you want to do a deeper dive on some of these shifts, plus a few more, check out my masterclass. I have that in the link below in the description. And thanks for tuning in, and I will see you next time.